Have you ever been dared by a friend to see how many sour candies you can eat at the same time? It can be a fun challenge, although sometimes it can be painful if you eat too many. Well, I'm going to try a challenge like that today because I have some Sour Patch Kids. I'm going to dump a few on the table and see how much I can challenge myself to eating. Let's see how many I could eat today. Before I start eating my Sour Patch Kids, I want to remind myself about how I would figure out how many there are of them. Now, if I dump them on the table and arrange them in an array, I'd know exactly how many there are, because I know how to figure out things based on arrays. I can just turn the array into a multiplication sentence. For example, here I have some fuzzy peaches in an array, and I can ask myself how many rows are there? 1, 2 rows, so I'd write 2. And then how many are in each row? Well, I'd just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could say 2 times 4, and that equals 8. But what if I don't dump the candies into a nice array? What if I dump them into piles? What if I dump them into groups of about the same number in each? Well, then it would look something like that. Now, I haven't changed the number of candies on the table, but instead of having rows and numbers in each row, I have sets or groups. And how many are in each group? How many groups are there? There are 2 groups. 2. And then how many are in each group? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in each group. 2 times 4 is still 8. But in this case, instead of saying 2 rows of 4, I'm saying 2 groups of 4. Here's another example. I've got some sour cherry blasters, and how many groups are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 groups, so I'd write 4. And then how many are in each group? Well, just look, I don't even need to count with my finger. I can tell there are 3 in each group. So 4 times 3, I'd write that as 4 groups of 3, or 4 times 3 is 12. Well, now it's your turn. Can you turn these into multiplication sentences? Remember, the first number that you write tells you how many groups there are, and the second number after the multiplication sign tells you how many there are in each group. So, go get a piece of paper and a pencil and take a look at my 4 examples here, and I want you to turn each of those 4 examples into multiplication sentences. You can think of the big ovals as the number of groups, and then the small dots in each of the oval as the number of dots in each group. So, look at the pictures and then turn them into multiplication sentences based on what you've just learned about groups and the number of things in each group. Press pause to try it out, and then press play to check your answers. Okay, welcome back. Let's check your answers. Starting in the top left, we have 2 groups with 3 dots in each group, so that's 2 groups of 3, or 2 times 3. On the top right, we have 4 groups with 2 in each group, so that's 4 groups of 2, or 4 times 2. In the bottom left, we have 3 groups with 5 dots in each group, so that's 3 groups of 5, or 3 times 5. And in the bottom right, we have 2 groups with 6 dots in each group, so that's 2 groups of 6, 2 times 6. Okay, now let's try doing the reverse. I'm giving you the multiplication sentences, and I want you to draw the ovals with the dots in them. So look at the 4 multiplication sentences we've got here, and I want you to draw them as pictures using the oval and dot kind of diagram that I just used in the previous page. Press pause to try it out. Press play to check your answers. Okay, it's answer checking time. Starting on the top left. 1 times 5, that's 1 group of 5, so I just need to draw 1 group of 5. In the top right, I have 5 times 4, that's 5 groups of 4, so I just need to draw 5 groups with 4 dots in each group. On the bottom left, it says 4 times 3, that's 4 groups of 3, so I draw 4 groups with 3 dots in each group. And on the bottom right, I have 2 times 2, that's 2 groups of 2, 2 groups with 2 dots in each group. I'm sure you did fantastic drawing your ovals and your dots inside the ovals, so I think it's time to move on. I think you're getting pretty used to this idea that the multiplication sentence tells you how many groups there are and how many there are in each group. But when you're trying to add them all up to figure out what the total answer is, 4 times 2 equals something. Well, I just wrote 8 there, but how would you get there? Well, you could just count with your fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but that might take a while. Instead, we could add up the number that are in each group. In this case, we have 4 groups and 2 in each group, so that's 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. There are 4 2's. Well, 4 2's added all together is 8. Another example with some Sour Patch Kids. I have 3 groups of 5. And I could just count all of them one at a time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, or I could count how many there are in each group and add them all up. And I do it something like this. There are 5 plus 5 plus 5. There are 3 5's, and 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 15. Now, at this point, I think we need to come up with some sort of rule about when we're doing that adding bits. What do the two numbers represent? The number on the left tells you how many times you're adding, and the number on the right tells you what you're adding up. So 3 times 5 means that you're adding 3 times, and you're adding the number 5, which is why it's called times, because it tells you how many times you're adding it. With that in mind, you might be asking me, Mr. Hurley, if I need to add a whole bunch of numbers all together several times, how am I going to keep track of where I am? One thing that you could do is every time you do part of the addition sentence, you can write down what you've gotten so far, and you can write that over top of the number that you just finished adding. So for example, here's a long one, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. Whew. You can just say, well, 2 plus 2 is 4, and then write it over top of the last one that you added. And then you could say 4 plus 2 is 6, and then 6 plus 2 is 8, and then 8 plus 2 is 10, and then 10 plus 2 is 12, and then 12 plus 2 is 14. And now you know you've gotten to the end, and you were able to keep track of what you had added and what you hadn't yet added. So, what do I want you to do now? I want you to turn these multiplication sentences into addition sentences, just like I was showing you before. The first number before the multiplication sign tells you how many times you're adding it up, and the second number after the multiplication sign tells you what number you're adding up. With that knowledge, I want you to get your pencil, get your pen or paper or whatever, and turn these multiplication sentences into addition sentences. Press pause to try that out, and then press play to check your answers. It's answer checking time again. Let's get started. In the top left, we have 2 times 5. Well, that's 2 5's. So 5 plus 5, and that equals 10. On the top right, we have 3 times 4. So you're adding 3 times, and the number you're adding is 4. 4 plus 4 plus 4, and that equals 12. On the bottom left, we've got 6 times 1. So you're adding 6 times, and you're adding the number 1. So that's 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And that equals 6. And we know how to add 1, so that was pretty easy to do. And finally, in the bottom right, 4 times 5. That means you're adding 4 times, and you're adding the number 5. So that's 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. And that equals 20. Okay, now we know that we can think of multiplication as groups and repeated addition. And with that in mind, let's get back to my table and find out how many Sour Patch Kids I can eat. Now that I know that multiplication is just the same thing as repeated addition in groups, I can figure out how many Sour Patch Kids I'm going to force myself to eat. Let's take a look. Well, I have 3 groups, and I have 4 candies in each group. That's 3 groups of 4 candies, or 3 times 4. Okay, so 3 times 4 is the same as adding 4 3 times. So 4, and then 4 plus 4 is 8, and then 8 plus 4 is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 12 candies, and I'm going to eat them 4 at a time. So here we go. Here's the first one. No. Oh, that's sour. Oh, it's very sour. Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh, okay. I just. Okay. That was 4. Now I'm going to eat 4 more. 4 plus 4. Oh, this is so sour. No, it's too much. It's too much. I have to have some water. Okay, that was 4 plus 4. That's 8. Plus 4 more. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Why am I doing this? I don't know why. I don't know why I'm doing this. This is awful. Oh. Oh. Okay. Well, now that you've seen me torture myself with multiplication of sour candies, it's your turn to do some multiplication of your own. So log into Seesaw and check for the math assignments for multiplication that I have given you today. And enjoy your math. Bye.